Taxonomic impediments. The taxonomic impediment is a term that describes the gaps in knowledge in our taxonomic system, the shortage of trained taxonomists and curators, and the impact of these deficiencies in our ability to manage and use our biological diversity. The fourth meeting on Convention of Biological Diversity held at Darwin, Australia in 1998 stated that the various countries which participated in the meeting affirmed the existence of a taxonomic impediment for the proper management and conservation of world's biodiversity. Removal of this impediment is absolutely essential not only for discovering and understanding the world's biological diversity but also for global efforts to conserve our biodiversity. The Global Taxonomy Institute Initiative or GTI promote necessary steps to remove taxonomic impediments. The various impediments and problems are briefly dealt with at the help of this video. So, impediments for building up taxonomic collections and its maintenance. Taxonomic collections have been developed through hard field oriented efforts by professional and amateur taxonomists. These collections are seats of permanent information storage and unique scientific records of biological diversity of organisms. These collections serve as a ready reference for systematic research and accurate identification of organisms. The collections of specimens represent a record of genetic and morphological diversity, geographical distribution, and other biological information. In several instances, these collections represent many species which have become extinct and thus remain as the only record of this extinct species. These collections provide fundamental information for various aspects of human enterprise, including agriculture, health, pollution control, and conservation. They form the basis for taxonomic studies such as description of new species, revisions, dichotomous keys, preparation of checklists, maps, and monographs. The information housed in taxonomic collections all over the world should be made available to the countries of the origin of these specimens. Unfortunately, there are several taxonomic impediments. So, taxonomic collections have been developed through hard field oriented efforts by professionals and amateur taxonomists we just mentioned. These collections are seats of permanent information storage and unique scientific records of biological diversity of organisms. These collections serve as a ready reference for systematic research and accurate identification of organisms. The collections of specimens represent a record of genetic and morphological diversity, geographical distribution, and other biological information. In several instances, these collections represent many species which have become extinct and thus remain as the only record of this extinct species. They are so precious, don't you think? So, these collections provide fundamental information for various aspects of human enterprise, including agriculture, health, pollution control, and conservation. They form the basis for taxonomic studies such as description of new species, revisions, dichotomous keys, preparation of checklists, maps, and monographs. The information housed in taxonomic collections all over the world should be made available to the countries of the origin of the specimens. Unfortunately, there are several taxonomic impediments for building up taxonomic collections in various institutes and museums. Till the recent past, taxonomic collections were considered by physiologists, molecular biologists, biotechnologists, and others a non-functional storage of dead specimens of taxonomists' hobby, like stamp collection. One late professor of invertebrate animal reproductive physiology told that all taxonomic collections should be immersed in Arabian Sea. So another molecular biologist proclaimed that taxonomic studies except molecular taxonomy would be extinct in the near future, but that is not the case. So such ignorant intelligentsia fail to appreciate the importance of the preservation of taxonomic collections. In addition, at times, some individuals representing conservation enforcement agencies in their over enthusiasm for conservation place impediments in building up collections of organisms by genuine researchers of taxonomy. At times, even otherwise knowledgeable persons who are supposed to know that taxonomic studies are essential subscribe to the misconception that collecting species of fauna and flora of scientific studies will cause their extinction. There are millions of nanofauna which can be seen only under microscope and thus have to be collected and studied in the laboratory. As for determining ecotypes, biotypes, sibling species, ecological races, etc., collecting samples from different localities is a prerequisite for an Depth taxonomic studies. Too much stringent restrictions prevailing collection and movement of specimens and type materials can have damaging implications on taxonomic research. The main principle should be that bona fide taxonomists must be permitted to collect and freely exchange specimens for taxonomic research. Every step should be taken to ensure that national and international legislation does not impede these activities of taxonomists. And those who understand the basic truth that taxonomy is the foundation of all meaningful research in biology must be committed to the protection of taxonomic research from undue legislations. Then, shortage of manpower. At no time has there been a greater need for taxonomists than now when the crisis facing biodiversity is escalating. Decision 11/8 of the second meeting of the Conference of the Parties to the Convention on Biological Diversity identified a lack of taxonomists as a significant impediment to the implementation of the convention at the national level. The task facing taxonomists is so great that it may require approximately 5,000 taxonomists to complete merely the taxonomic listing of 5 million species in 20 to 30 years if one taxonomist can deal with 1,000 species. Today, when the need for a taxonomic stock taking of Earth's biodiversity is becoming increasingly urgent, the number of bona fide taxonomists is declining. Kahan in 1923 stated that the tremendous worldwide interest in taxonomic entomology has resulted in the swelling of a number of taxonomist workers to a veritable army, while the number of systematists are apparently not keeping pace. The statement is really relevant today, where the number of taxonomists has not increased much, and these few are confronted with several millions of species where non taxonomic researchers have disproportionately increased several fold. So, there is no wonder if large percentage of determinants is left with only generic names and many species names end up with a question mark. The number of taxonomists and the resources at their disposal are certainly inadequate for the magnitude of the task before them. Most of the world's taxonomists are based on North America and Europe. In developing countries, specialist taxonomists are very few, and among these, most are not suitably trained in taxonomic theory and practice. This is a critical problem that needs to be addressed on a worldwide basis. Taxonomists are mostly employed in museums, herbaria, universities, and some government departments. Thus, in most countries, employment of taxonomists is heavily dependent on government funding that supports such institutions. Enough employment opportunities are to be created in every country for taxonomists. Though a country cannot afford to employ a large number of taxonomists all of a sudden, yet at least an attempt has to be made in this direction. So, lack of funding for taxonomic research. Finding financial support is one of the most important problems in the field of taxonomic research. Funding agencies and universities should earmark enough funds for taxonomic research. Students can be given scholarships and fellowships for taking up research in taxonomy. So, sufficient financial support should be given to universities to promote the development of taxonomic specialists. In addition to these, enough funds should be set apart by taxonomists to visit international centers for research. However, despite the suggestions, the present state of the world economy and general attitude of the governments to cut public expenditure make it doubtful whether there will be enough and adequate funding for taxonomic work. In such a situation, it is worth securing funding from the private, commercial, and non governmental sectors. So, Bennett discussed the matter of reducing costs and increasing efficiency in the use of existing resources, and suggesting the way forward will inevitably involve a combination of new funding, greater efficiency, clear priorities, and difficult decisions. Lack of training in taxonomy. Shorter as well as long term courses should be offered to students and working entomologists for undertaking taxonomic research. For instance, undergraduate and postgraduate students can be given different levels of project on taxonomy under the guidance of teachers who have competence in taxonomy. Apart from this, shorter duration, 1 to 3 months, courses on taxonomy can be conducted regularly for the benefit of working entomologists to start work studies. So, taxonomists should be introduced as a compulsory core subject and syllabi and curriculum of undergraduate and postgraduate students of the life sciences. That's why I'm just learning this. That's something quite personal, but still I want to mention. Then, besides, taxonomy can also be offered as a special subject at a master's level, as suggested by the University Grants Commission of India. Then, lack of library facilities for studying taxonomy of any group of animals or plants. All relevant literature, both old and new, has to be procured. Even papers published 100 years ago is also important in taxonomic research, because we know the law of priority in naming for names published after 1758, I guess, is most the relevant. The first come first serve rule, or the law of priority. The first one will be the solid name. So old papers are also very important. It's published 100 years ago. It's also important in taxonomic research. Nothing is outdated in taxonomy. That's something which is very carefully addressed. Then, unfortunately, libraries of most third world countries, poor, rich, and diverse fauna and flora await discovery, lack adequate library facilities. Taxonomic descriptions of tropical organisms published by Western scientists in Western journals are often not available to scientists of these countries. The back volume of such journals, such as zoological records, etc., are not available in most libraries of these developing and underdeveloped countries. The situation must change for the progress of taxonomic research in these countries. Steps may be taken to allocate enough funds for the national libraries to procure old research papers so as to reprint and replenish them and republish them. Since most of these papers are more than 100 years old, there may not be any copyright restrictions. Then, impediments in publishing taxonomic work. Publishing taxonomic work is a very important necessary uh, step or necessity for knowing the biodiversity. Each new taxon found out needs nomenclature validity, and for this, taxonomic description should be published. Revisions, monographs, catalogs, keys, etc. will be very helpful for other workers of biology or applied biology. Unfortunately, there are several impediments in overcoming this difficulty. At present, there are very few journals in the world, and especially in the third world countries, for exclusively publishing lengthy taxonomic papers such as monographs, revision, or reviews. A few journals available are confronted with large number of backlog or other constraints. Most of the foreign journals make page charges that are not affordable to workers of South and Southeast Asia. This is a very important point, because even if your work is amazing, it should be published. You can't afford to publish that in a magazine like Nature, because that's definitely gonna impose a money constraint in you. You need a great amount of money for that, so that might end up having a problem for you. So the few journals available are confronted with large number of backlog or other constraints. Hence, in order to publish large divisions as well as catalogs, we need more exclusive journals meant only for publishing taxonomic work. Catalogs are very important for any workers to start taxonomic work. Revisions will be extremely useful for assessing the taxonomic status of the fauna or flora involved. Keys will help not only taxonomists but also other scientists to identify the concerned organisms. Hence, in order to remove the impediments in catering to the needs of taxonomists in publishing their work, steps may be taken in bringing out some research journals with the help from government or societies or boards.